Welcome to another episode of InRange. I've got a pretty exciting announcement for you today. But first of all, I want to clarify that the What Would Stoner Do 2020 rifles are still in production, but they are constrained by the supply chain. Something that we said early on, and even 2017, before we ever envisioned this being actually a product, was that the difficulty of manufacturing these as a product would be that the diversity of parts from different manufacturers made it very hard to aggregate and therefore produce in large numbers. KE Arms and Brownells have combined, of course, to make that happen. And then we had COVID and supply chain and the current drought of people just rushing to buy everything that's firearms related on the market. And quite honestly, the carbon fiber float tubes and barrels have become difficult to acquire in large numbers. So what would Stoner do? 2020 rifles are coming out is as they can. So as the parts come in, they're manufactured and produced and then put out to Brownells and shipped to people who pre-ordered them. If you're still interested in a complete rifle, that is something that will still be coming. The pre-orders are currently closed because we don't want to continue to garner more pre-orders for something we are trying to fulfill the backfill for, and we will. But at the same time, we wanted to offer something to those of you out there who either A, aren't necessarily interested in the complete rifle, maybe you have your own idea of what you want to do, or frankly don't have the scratch for a complete rifle, or you're concerned that you want the receiver part right now for legal reasons or etc. So what we're doing is we're coming out with the What Would Stoner Do 2021 complete lower assembly. And now it says 2021 because there is indeed some iterative evolution in this. So first of all, it comes with the KP15 monolithic polymer lower receiver, which at this point has been through all the teething. It is the best version thereof. All the machining, secondary operations, the molding, everything's been completely nailed down to be the best version thereof. And in the What Would Stoner Do 2021 version, it will come with all the things that made it a What Would Stoner Do configuration. JP capture spring, ambidextrous PDQ lever for bolt release, ambidextrous magazine release, and an ambi safety that can be set to either 45 or 90 degree throw. Now, the What Would Stoner Do 2020 rifle comes with the excellent KE Arms SLT-1 trigger, or fire control group. And we have a whole video about why we selected this, but I'll go through it here a little bit as well. We picked this not because of KE Arms, but because it was a very clever and interesting design. When you get dirt, debris, or mud into an AR-15 style gun, I'm going to tell you 90% of the time a malfunction that occurs, if one is to occur, happens in the fire control group. Something gets into the fire control group. And the SLT-1 is a very closed system that actually doesn't even have the sear. It is a searless system, at least an exposed sear. And what happens is if dirt or debris gets near this or into the SLT-1, it is far more resilient than a standard fire control group. Additionally, the SLT-1 has an excellent trigger pull of around 4 pounds-ish, which is match-like in its performance. And it is also capable of allowing you to engage the safety regardless of the status of the fire control group, hammer cocked or not, which I think is a really good benefit in terms of firearms and weapons manipulation. You can put it on safe for a malfunction or for whatever, whether the hammer's up or down. And we really have liked and enjoy this trigger, and it will continue to be the trigger in the What Would Stoner Do 2020 rifle configuration at that price point. But the iterative evolution of the What Would Stoner Do 2021 system isn't any of those parts, it's the fire control group. So KE Arms has evolved the SLT-1 to become the Rekluse. And the Rekluse really just takes the concepts of the SLT-1 and improves upon them. The SLT-1 still had some exposed area right here where the sear would normally be in a standard fire control group. And the Rekluse is completely sealed. This is truly completely sealed. There is really no way to, you'd have to try to get dirt and debris into this fire control group. It is a completely contained and enclosed unit. Additionally, they have increased the spring pressure for the hammer throw or the hammer blow in the Rekluse. The SLT-1, without its exposed sear engagement, is excellent for most applications and even great for direct 9mm blowbacks, which tend to break standard fire control groups. And of course, the Rekluse is still good for that. But let's say you're going to do something like use a MR556 HK upper, which has a completely modified bolt carrier group that has a firing pin safety and spring in it designed to reduce and remove or mitigate the issue of slam fires in the HK firearm. Well, what that means is you need a stronger hammer blow to the firing pin to detonate typically military cartridges. So if you're using Lake City XM193, for example, with military primers, the SLT-1 would normally set it off in an HK, but not always. And that's because of the amount of spring tension applied to the hammer striking the firing pin. And so the Rekluse, not only being entirely enclosed, also increases the amount of force being deployed by the hammer to the firing pin, and it mitigates that issue in either the HK or any other gun that might have challenging primers. Later in this video, I'm going to go ahead and install the Rekluse into this KP15, What Would Stoner Do 2021 at that point. And I'm going to put the HK on it, and I'm going to demonstrate to you with a handful of XM193 Lake City ammunition that the Rekluse absolutely fires them reliably. But again, the most exciting part of this is that if you're on the waiting list for the What Would Stoner Do 2020 rifles, they are still happening. They will come out as they can. If you are wanting to do something now, or maybe you're not interested in the complete rifle, you can go to Brownells and get the What Would Stoner Do 2021, which is comprised of all of the What Would Stoner Do components with an upgrade to the Rekluse trigger. But there's nothing wrong with the SLT-1 in the What Would Stoner Do 2020. The Rekluse is just an evolution thereof. So that's the exciting part. But let me go ahead and install the Rekluse into my lower here, and let's go test fire it with this MR556 HK upper assembly. Okay, I've installed the Rekluse trigger. I forgot to mention that if you get the What Would Stoner Do 2021 lower, you do get the storage compartment with the butt plate with the door. And of course you get the JP, again, you get the JP capture spring, Rekluse trigger, ambidextrous PDQ lever for bolt release, and ambi magazine release, as well as ambi safety with a 45-degree throw. So Rekluse has been installed. You can see that right there. I've got a pile of military Lake City ball here with the hard primers, and I've got an HK with the firing pin safety system installed. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there, and we're going to bolt that on top of our KP15 here, or our What Would Stoner Do 2021 lower, and then we are going to go test fire this with that hard ammunition, or with those hard primers. Let's go do it. All right, I'm out here at 50 yards. I've got the MR556 upper on my WWSD 2021 lower with the Rekluse trigger, and I've got 20 rounds of Lake City M193 military ammunition with hard primers. So got a target here at 50 yards. We're just going to do a mag dump, quite honestly, and this is just a function check to make sure that the Rekluse does what we said it does, which is set off hard primers. No problem whatsoever, as expected, and locked open, etc. But what would you expect from a HK upper, right? It should work well. But more importantly, the What Would Stoner Do 2021 is available via Brownells. If you're interested in acquiring that and building your own What Would Stoner Do inspired build, or maybe getting the lower before trying to build a proper upper, whatever works for you. By the way, you can buy the Rekluse trigger on its own as well, which InRange doesn't make anything off of. But if you buy a What Would Stoner Do branded product, a little of that does come back to InRange. So you are supporting the channel through that. So just keep that in mind. That said, this is still an entirely Patreon supported project. I was not afraid to fire that ammunition. I know that sounds ridiculous, 20 rounds, but frankly, 20 rounds nowadays is a concern. I was not afraid to fire that ammunition because some of you viewers out there, actually quite a few of you, have support this channel directly because we are demonetized. We make no money off of any advertising, no sponsors, no overlords. Some money from What Would Stoner Do sales. That hasn't really happened yet, but it's starting to. But really, it's you, the viewer, that keep InRange alive. You can find us at patreon.com/InRangeTV if you'd like to do that. Totally understand if you can't. The most important thing you can do is watch our videos on one of the multiple distribution points, not just YouTube. You can find them at InRange.tv/watch. And even more important than that, leave a comment and share with your friends. And if you like the What Would Stoner Do concept and want to build your own, or want to just get the ball rolling with a lower, head over to Brownells and get one yourself today. Thanks.